I don't intentionally use SUNO or generative AI music tools, but it's definitely permeated my business whether I like it or not. So in this video, as I share my opinion about this stuff, just know that yes, it is an educated opinion. I have experienced the platform and I do know its strengths and its pitfalls. The AI conversation is overwhelming because everyone has a different take on it. Some say you're behind if you don't use it. Others say you're selling out if you do. There's pressure from all sides, and most people are sharing their opinions in a very loud and emotional me against you type of way. So naturally, the landscape is confusing. You don't have to choose between being a purist or going all in on AI. There is a middle ground. You can use AI intentionally as a tool that enhances your process without replacing your creativity. You can experiment without compromising your values. But I think we're right to be moving with caution and having these conversations. So please chat with me in the comments below. I'd love to hear you weigh in. We can disagree with each other and still be friends. I'm about to share my thoughts on 7 different AI concerns. 1, is AI taking our jobs? 2, AI quality control. 3, the emotional impact. 4, the moral issues. 5, the reality of our biases. 6, adapting to change. And 7, what do we do about it? So here's where I'm at. First of all, I'm Kimera, mostly known for vocal production, my sync licensing work, and years of work on soundbetter.com, but I'm also a plugin developer. I also have a lot of love for machine learning as a method of building software. I'm experimenting with teaching an AI model how to repair audio in one of my plugins. I use AI to help me with all kinds of things, from copywriting to debugging my code. It is unreal how much time it saves us, and I absolutely think it's made a huge impact on my life in a positive way. But there are big question marks around the topic of generative audio. Could it put songwriters and producers and even singers and musicians out of business? A business that's already a struggle to begin with? And are you a sellout or unprofessional if you're not actually writing your own songs? Here are some of my real concerns and how I am playing devil's advocate. Well, the good thing is this question has a dynamic answer. Some people are comfortable generating a song with SUNO and leaving it at that. Yeah, maybe they would have otherwise hired someone to write and record the song for them, but now the way they see it, they don't have to anymore. That's fine. Good luck to you. Sayonara. But something else is happening that not many people realize. Because of SUNO, more people who never produced songs before are playing with it. Maybe they are just music fans who want to dip a toe in, or maybe they were poets who get to have this incredible new experience of hearing their words sung in a song. These people have entered the music market and are actually hiring professional singers, producers, and even songwriters to help revamp their AI-generated work. So ironically, with the fear of AI taking our jobs, AI is actually generating some jobs. But there's a big caveat here. The fact that AI productions are not good enough to humans, that humans can actually tell that was made with AI, that's where our human advantage is for now. But technology will advance, and there might come a time where people won't tell the difference and they'll be completely okay with releasing their song with an AI voice on it. There's an issue with the AI songwriting itself that people who are using SUNO should be aware of. And honestly, if you are using SUNO, you probably already are aware of this: the patterns. Nowadays, the average person may receive an email and instantly their brain sees the pattern. They've subconsciously learned what ChatGPT writing looks like, and they instantly know this was written by ChatGPT. The same is going for SUNO. You might have heard a lot of the same words being used in AI songs, like echoes, shadows, in the night, the street lights, etc. SUNO spits out a lot of this same stuff over and over. One of my clients uses SUNO religiously, and one day I pointed out to him that the opening melody of 2 different songs he was having me re-record were exactly the same melody, but just with his different lyrics. I will say though, I already have heard some improvement in the way SUNO writes. Like when it first came out, people were saying it's just a bunch of word salad. It was just like ongoing flowy melodies that didn't really have any repetition or catchiness to them, but now it kind of does. Here are a few other things I find kind of odd about SUNO. It doesn't really write harmonies. It often ends a section with a long, dramatic, held out note for uncomfortably long. There are often tempo changes throughout the song unless you tell it not to do that. And sometimes there won't even be a rhyme at the end of a section. So there's definitely room for improvement in the actual quality. And speaking of quality, if you download the stems, okay, this is super weird actually. It sounds like they were actually generated by a stem splitter. I think that is what is happening, which means There is bleed from the instrumental to the vocal and bleed from the vocal to the instrumental, which is something to note about machine learning in general, how it works. As incredible as it is, it's not that easy to tweak and make changes to. What's happening in the background of an AI generating a song is not a typical layout of tracks like you see in a session. It's just a black box. No code or algorithm you can look at and change. It just processes something based on what it learned from your training data. So it's basically spitting out one block wave of output, which is the song in its entirety. But SUNO doesn't create the drums, then the guitar, then add the vocal. It just kind of happens all in one big block. And then I'm pretty sure they just use a stem splitter to separate the stems, which then comes out relatively poorly. But let's talk about the emotional side a bit here too. There is something deep inside that just makes a lot of our stomachs turn at the thought of this technology permeating our lives. Music is such a massive part of our lives, and it's tethered to our emotions. I really wonder how a generation of kids raised on AI music would be affected in their emotional development. To me, it's a lot like the worry of children who get much of their social cues from faces growing up in a world of people wearing masks. So will growing up in a world of synthetic emotion in music actually mess with emotional development? Then there's the moral question. As a professional songwriter and session singer, my craft is my competitive advantage. The specific way I write, the choices I make, the authenticity of my voice, that's what my clients are paying for. If we all start relying on SUNO to write songs for us, it's like we're all the same songwriter and no one will be unique anymore. And even though this is my business, music is my business and I have to be a businesswoman, as a creative, values and emotions are so interwoven into my work that I just can't bring myself to be that transactional. I care very deeply about every piece of music I'm involved in. I care about the people involved, my clients, and I care about giving the song its best chance of being truly great. So just to me personally, it's almost like I have this Hippocratic oath of songwriting that I will always prioritize the well-being of the song. And I'm sorry, I just don't feel like it's in the song's best interest to not be written by a human. That matters to me. What matters to me and what matters to you are likely very varying. Our natural reactions to things tend to be based on our primitive survival response. And as a songwriter, I am kind of triggered by AI songwriting and singing because it's a potential threat to my survival. If no one wants to hire me anymore, that's a problem. But that is my personal bias because on the other hand, as someone who doesn't really produce music too often and production isn't a factor in my survival, I can look at generative instrumental production as something I might want to capitalize on and maybe even incorporate into my business to create more income for myself. Same might go for producers who don't sing or write. They can produce their instrumental like normal, but maybe they don't need to split their writer's share with a songwriter anymore. Just use SUNO for that side. But that same producer might get nervous about AI producing instrumentals. We all have our biases, and especially those who never thought that they could take part in the creation of a song. Now having that ability, to them, this is like a whole new wonderful world has opened up. How could someone like me want to take that joy and euphoria away from those people? So SUNO can have its flowers for that aspect. There's something really big here though. For working musicians and producers who just want to turn a blind eye, who just want to have the occasional venting session with friends about how this is affecting their ability to make money, you gotta pay attention to this and you have to be prepared to adapt. Humans will always be advancing technology, and with that, sometimes old tech or old ways will become obsolete. This is classic Blockbuster and Netflix all over. Netflix was a service that mailed DVDs to people's houses. Streaming literally made DVDs and VHS tapes like obsolete. Blockbuster went out of business, but Netflix adapted, and look how it has thrived. If you were a taxi driver when Uber came out, did you just let your business dwindle and dwindle? Or did you explore your other skills and find a whole new way to provide for your family? Are you an Uber driver now facing the question marks around Waymo, potentially taking all of the driving business? We always have to be thinking ahead and find ways to stay ahead of the curve. All that to say, I'm not just sitting here twiddling my thumbs thinking music will pay my bills forever. In fact, maybe this has been the fear I needed to push me to launch my pro audio company. And ironically, maybe this is the push I needed to generate income from something that isn't exactly music creation so that I can take music creation back for myself instead of spending all my creative energy on clients' music. All I suggest here is that you reflect on what music creation means to you and what purpose it serves in your life. Is songwriting songwriting your form of expression and consolation? Or is it just business and that makes you happy enough to have an income from music? And if so, are you thinking about how to adapt to the possibility of new technology affecting the way you make money? Let's have a discussion on this below in the comments. Thank you for listening to my opinion. I will be sharing a lot more on my channel. You might like this playlist on ways I generate income for myself as a singer, because it's really important to diversify your income streams as a musician, because you never know what the next streaming is going to be that knocked out blockbuster. I want you to be Netflix, okay? Prepare yourself, but also get excited. Get curious about what's to come, not fearful. We'll be okay. A beautiful new day is dawning. I believe it. All right, I'll see you in the next video.